And we're live. Welcome everyone to the Hedera Technical Community Call for this month. I'm your host, Ed Marcus, leading developer relations. So today the theme is going from CLI to AI on Hedera. And today's call is going to be structured in two segments. First, we're going to have Luke Forrest from Hashgraph and also Sebastian Raba from Buidler Labs. And they're going to walk us through Scaffold HBAR. This is a pretty awesome tool and CLI to spin up working Hedera dApps with just one command. So super excited to see more about that. And then in the second segment, we're going to see Piotr Swierzy from BlockyDevs and Lindsay Walker from Hashgraph. And they're going to give us a deep dive into agentic commerce. So things like X402, things like the machine payments protocol or MPP, and really what it takes for AI agents to transact and do commerce in today's world. So let's get into it and bring the first two speakers for our first segment to the stage. So welcome, Luke and Sebastian. Tell us a little bit about yourself, guys.
Hi, Ed. Thanks very much for having us. I'm Luke from the Developer Relations Hashgraph team, and I'm joined today by Seba, who's going to be walking us through Scaffold HBAR. Seba, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Seba, working with Buidler Labs on Scaffold HBAR. Really happy to be here.
Amazing, guys. All right, please take it away.
Of course, yeah. So Scaffold HBAR is effectively exactly that. It's a scaffold for builders to take and add on to, and shows them all of the best practices to use when building on Hedera. And that could be anything from creating HTS fungible tokens, using NFTs, DeFi swapping as well. And Seba has put together an incredible demonstration for us and will show you how to get started using Scaffold HBAR.
So let's kick it off. I'll share my screen and we can go on. Okay, I think it should be visible now. Great stuff. Should I go on? The screen is visible?
Yep, we can see.
Perfect. So let's take a look at how easy it is to get a project scaffolded using our new project called Scaffold HBAR. First things first, we need to use npx and just run npx create scaffold HBAR at latest to get the latest version of our library. I'm just gonna give it a demo test name for the project that gets scaffolded. And we can see we have an interactive CLI. After you choose the name of the project, you get a few options for different templates that you can use. For the purpose of this demo, I'm gonna pick tokenized subscriptions, but I encourage everyone to take a look and give each template a spin, because there are many interesting things in there. So tokenized subscriptions, basically, it's a marketplace where people can tokenize different subscriptions, such as gym subscriptions, maybe Netflix, internet subscriptions, and so on. And they can rent it out or sell it completely to different users. We're gonna see how everything works.
Hey, so a quick question here for those people watching us on mobile and maybe on small screens. Any chance we can zoom in and make that text a little bigger?
Oh, let me see. I don't know exactly how to do it right now, but I am going to find it.
If it's too much trouble, I think we'll be fine. But just wanted to throw the thought out.
I get that. Let me double check if I can make it bigger. Okay, perfect. Zoom in. Nice. Maybe one more time, right?
Yeah, once more. Yeah.
Great stuff. Should be fine now?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, so basically, the next prompt we get is whether we want to install already the Hedera skills inside the scaffolded project. The default is yes, and basically you will get everything from the Hedera skills marketplace scaffolded right into your new project, right? So we're gonna pick yes here. We also create a configuration file whether you want to run on testnet or mainnet. I'm going to choose testnet for now, and all our templates, all our demo apps work with NPM and Yarn. Yarn is a bit more stable from what we noticed, so that's why we recommend it. However, everything works with both of them. I'm going to choose Yarn for now. So next thing is basically our project gets scaffolded, and all the dependencies get installed with the Yarn package manager, plus the Hedera skills. This might take a few seconds, and we'll be ready to kick it off.
Awesome. While that's loading, Seba, could you tell us a little bit about the Hedera Skills Marketplace and how that's going to help developers build?
Sure. It's basically a set of guides for interacting with Hedera services, and you can use it with your agents so that they have like pre-inputted information of different services that you can use throughout your project.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. So now everything got installed now, and we see we have an outro message with the commands needed for running this project. I'm just gonna cd into that scaffolded project and use the commands that that are listed here. So first things first, we need a hard hat account set up in our environment for us to be able to deploy the contracts. I am going to import one, not generate, because I already have a funded one and it's a bit faster for the demo purpose. So I'm just gonna grab my, okay, perfect. I'm just gonna grab my private key from that account now. It's just a test one, so no problem in there. Okay. I won't set a password right now, just for the demo. Okay, perfect. So now we have an account created in our M file. Let's go into the deployment part. We have a script that deploys all the contracts needed for this template. We will see there are three contracts that get deployed here. So there's a apparently there's a gas price change. No worries, because we can also pass it as a parameter. Let me grab it like this. Okay, I'm just gonna open it. Sorry for that. I tried the demo a couple of hours ago. Everything was fine, but gas price changed. So we can also see how we can fix this kind of stuff right now. Okay, so something else. Basically, the project that gets provisioned has a couple of packages. There's a hard hat one for the contracts, and there's a Next.js one for UI. If we open the deploy here, we'll be able to actually update the prices for, let me see if I just grab this value. Perfect. Okay.
Great. I think you need to save the first part. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Great stuff. Sorry for that. Let's go into the deploy once again. Okay, no password. Okay, perfect. So basically the first contract got deployed. We get the transaction hash for it, and we also get the contract address. First one was the subscriptions NFT. Then we have a subscriptions marketplace and a subscription sales. The difference between the two is basically we offer the users the possibility to either rent out for a certain number of days their subscription, or to sell their NFT or subscription to another user. Okay, next thing, we need to deploy to create a collection for those NFTs so that everything works neatly, and we also created a script for that. The project is TypeScript based, so all the scripts and everything is written in TypeScript there. Okay, let's create the collection. We fetch the account balance. You see who will be the contract owner, basically the account corresponding to the private key I set, and then the collection gets created. Okay, next thing is to start the application. So we see the last command that we need in order to start it is next start the dev story. Cool, application is up. Let's. I'm just gonna fetch Chrome here and open the localhost 3000 where our application runs. Takes a bit until everything gets compiled. A bit longer than usually. Sorry for that. Okay, all good. So we're up. I had the wallet connected before and forgot to clean up my local storage. But let's pick up a new wallet. Okay, just a random one from the test set I have in my MetaMask account. First things, we need to mint a subscription for other users to be able to interact with it. So we can go to the mint page and I don't know, let's say, okay, Planet Fitness, maybe it's fitness. It's basically a gym subscription, right? We have a premium tier for this one. Premium, okay. We give royalties for, not we, but the marketplace contract gives royalties for the person that sells the NFT, but also the provider itself. It's an incentive for people to use, for providers like subscription providers to use this kind of application. So for every extra sale, the provider gets a royalty as well. I am going to let it to my wallet address, but if we want to, we can set it to another address. And let's say it starts maybe 10th of June 2026. It already started and it ends 10th of June 2027. Okay, this is the first subscription that we're creating here. We have to confirm the transaction. Basically, this is an XJX app that is connected to the deployed contracts that we have just ran. Mm-hmm. And right now we have some subscriptions in the rentals, right? I will need to disconnect from this account and connect to a new one. Let me give me a second. Sorry. The reason why is because I won't be able to buy the subscription from the account that created it already. So I have to be another person. Sales, sorry. Oh. I think
do we need to list it for sale on the other accounts?
We need to list it for sales. It should appear in rentals, but I think it's not yet. The transaction might not yet be fully minted. Give me a second. I think I created from this one. My subscriptions. Okay, yeah, exactly. So basically, the subscription was created, but I forgot to list it either for sale or create a rental. So let's just create a rental for the demo now. Start date is always tomorrow. Basically, the smallest date that you can set is from tomorrow on. Let's say we go on holiday for a month from the 10th of July, for example, this year, and we'll be back on the 10th of August, also this year. So basically, for this use case, we can rent out our subscription to different users. There is a price that you can set for each day of rental. Let's leave it at 1 HBAR. Okay, we are creating the rentals as well. Great stuff. And it takes a bit for the transaction to get mine now. I will switch accounts until then, so I can also showcase how we can rent it as well. Okay, let's pick this one up. Okay, now the rental is visible, and we can go into the details page. Great, and we can set a number of days. Let's say I want to get it for 5 days from the 20th, or let's leave it in the 10th of July. Perfect. So we can book it then. Confirm. And there we go. Basically, right now we have our booked subscription, and we'll be able to use it in the period that we set. The same goes for creating sales, and people just buy them. Not sure if the time allows me now to do a sales demo as well, or maybe we should wrap it up. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, let's do a sales demo.
Perfect. Okay, so I will mint another NFT from this account, so I don't switch accounts anymore. And let's go for, or actually, let me. I think it's quicker if I switch the account and go back to the one that has the subscription. Okay, and my subscription, and we can list it for sale. Okay. It has already future bookings, and you can either sell it with the. You cannot basically sell it if people had already rented it out. So let's create a new one. Okay, this will be Netflix, for example, premium as well. I want to give up my Netflix account. Don't want to watch it anymore, let's say. And this is for a month, for example, 2026 to 10th of September 2026. Perfect. Okay, takes a bit of time. We see the first one that we created, but we have to wait a bit until the Netflix one gets minted as well. Nice, great. So let's list this one for sale. We have two versions. It's either a fixed price that you want to sell it for, or we can create an English auction where people bid for buying it, basically. I'm gonna set it to a fixed price right now, and let's say we want maybe, I don't know, 20 HBAR for it. Approved. You have to approve the listing for the marketplace, of course. Perfect. And then we can also list it. There's a fee breakdown. So as I was saying, 5% royalty goes to the original provider, 5% goes to the marketplace, and 90% to the seller. Confirm. Okay. Again, just we need a bit of time until the transaction gets mined, and we can see the, okay, perfect, the listing. I am going to switch accounts again and connect to this one. Perfect. So now I can buy the subscription. Okay. Great stuff. And again, we have to wait a bit. So we have the bookings that we have just booked from this account. We can cancel it as well. We can mint new subscriptions. There's a rentals page, sales page, and basically we should have the my subscription that we just bought here. I think that's it for the demo of this app. Thank you very much, and I am open to any Q&A if we have any questions.
Yes, Seba, thank you so much. And Luke, that was an awesome demo and example of one of those templates that comes with Scaffold HBAR. I do have a couple of comments and some questions that are coming through the chat. And so the first thing I do want to say is I love the template because it connects with that promise of blockchain and what it enables, right? True ownership of something like a subscription or a membership. And then here you've illustrated how to create those marketplaces so peers can create either secondary markets or exchange things peer to peer, which adds insane value to this thing, to the ownership of subscriptions. And then the other interesting part is just weeks ago, I was talking to a few friends and colleagues about doing something like this for AI tokens. When you think about your subscriptions and the tokens that you have left after some time, imagine if you could, do something like renting them or selling them to someone else. So very cool that you have created an example and a template to show people how they can start thinking about this and implementing something like this. So the first question that we have is coming from Henry. So perhaps an opportunity to provide more context here, but he's saying, so this is like the usual Scaffold ETH plus connectors to Hedera, and then starters related to Hedera tools. So if you could give us more context, is this the right way to think about it? Is this like a create next app or like a Scaffold ETH?
Yeah, should I go on, Luke? Is it fine?
Yeah, please. Yeah, feel free.
Okay, perfect. So, definitely that's where it. I think that's where the idea also originated from. To have like a starter, like a tool that you can use and see. Okay, I want to pick up building on Hedera, right? What can I do? What is the best practices? What are the possibilities? What does Hedera support, and so on and so forth. That's exactly what we thought about, and it basically works exactly like Scaffold ETH or even MPX to create a React app or other tools that we can think of. It has connectors to Hedera, yeah, exactly. And depending on the template, right now we chose a template that uses smart contracts deployed on the EVM supported version of Hedera. But you can also connect to native services. We have other templates. There's a native Hedera demo as well among the templates that basically use HSC, HTS, and all other Hedera native services.
Excellent. When you were discussing what's in the box, what's in the Scaffold HBAR, I think you mentioned some things like skills and other AI helpers. So can you tell us how those things fit into the workflow and perhaps some of the things that they facilitate for developers working with a Scaffold HBAR?
Yeah, of course. So we have the Hedera skills repo, and this was something that was built once Claude skills and Claude plugins came into effect. And what we found is by plugging in specific Hedera skills for Claude makes it so much more effective in how it builds. And by plugging it into the Scaffold HBAR, as we say, it's fully open source. People can take that, make it their own. By having the Hedera MCP already connected, it allows you to take the Scaffold HBAR and use it as a scaffold and build on from that to make these tools your own to help you succeed and help you build and flesh out those ideas.
Amazing. And so you mentioned this is open source. So let's say somebody starts working with Scaffold HBAR, they build a great template that they're proud of and that they want to share with the rest of the community. Can you walk us through or tell us how they can go about doing that? How can they go about sharing a template with the community?
Yeah. Seba, would you like to
sure. Yeah, sure. I can pick it up. So basically, we also support scaffolding external templates. We have a repository that people can take a look at. It's Scaffold HBAR, and basically they just need to respect the structure for the CLI to work with it. But the only thing you need to do is pass in the -- template flag, and you can pass in any of the templates that you are actually building yourself. So we support scaffolding different projects with external templates as well.
Excellent. That's really great to hear. All right, folks. So that's how you stand up a Hedera app really fast with a single command. Remember, Scaffold HBAR, give that a try. And then, Seba, I do want to ask you about X402 and perhaps a template. What are the plans when it comes to X402?
Sure. There is one that we have already in works. Basically, at the one that we started working on is leveraging X402 for payments, for access to different online assets, public assets like videos, photos, anything that can be stored in a file bucket. The way it works right now is basically we have a connector and a contract that can receive payments with the X402 protocol for downloading these assets that can be set either as private or as public. If they're public, you don't have to pay for them, but for private, you have to set a price. Hopefully, by the end of this week, we will have that live as well.
That sounds amazing. All right. Seba, thank you so much. Luke, thank you so much for this great overview and example. And so with that in mind and that context of X402 fresh in our minds, let's transition to the next topic or the next segment, which is going to be Agentic Commerce with X402 and the Machine Payments Protocol. So for that, let's welcome to the stage Lindsay Walker and Piotr Swierzy from BlockyDevs. Lindsay, Peter, how are you guys?
Good. How are you doing today?
Doing great, enjoying some soccer with the World Cup. So we know that's ongoing. All right, so Lindsay, Peter, if you could please introduce yourselves and give us a little bit of insights into what you do day to day.
I can start. Yeah, my name is Lindsay Walker. I am the product manager for an incubator we have here at Hedera called AI Studio. And AI Studio has been around for a little bit over a year. The first thing we created, mostly Peter's team there, was the Hedera Agent Kit. And what we've been focusing on for the past few months is agentic commerce. So we've been thinking about this future where we have, instead of humans going online, clicking and purchasing things, we have a new sort of structure to a future economy that is made up of AI agents. So that means we need to start thinking about how are we going to enable AI agents to discover different products, understand what it is that they need to use and do, maybe even talk with other AI agents in order to do this commercial transaction. And most importantly, how can we safely and securely enable AI agents to make payments in order to act on their own? So that might look like, how do they make payments to access an API? Right now, a human has to sign up for a subscription, and then you can hit an endpoint. It doesn't work that way with AI agents. They might want to use an API call once and they're not human, so they can't sign up for an account. It might even extend to being able to pay for goods and services themselves as well. So that's those are the products and projects that we've been working on, and we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Amazing. Yeah, we're certainly seeing AI agents acting more and becoming more prominent as economic actors. So great to hear that you're focused on all of that. And then Peter, over to you. If you could give us a quick intro of who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thank you so much. So basically, my name is Peter, and I'm one of the founders of a R&D team called BlockyDevs, and we have the pleasure to work on all AI at Hashgraph with Lindsay. So for over a year, working on Hedera Agent Kit, Hedera X402 integration, which is successful because Hedera is now a fully supported part of X402, but that was quite a journey. We are working on a few pretty interesting things. In the background with Lindsay, we've launched the Hedera MCP, and we've even today had a discussion that Hedera MCP is basically a public MCP that everyone can just query, every agent can just call it to perform tools. But the problem is that Hedera MCP supports write and read tools. And if you connect Hedera MCP to your cloud, you easily can use the read tools. But if Hedera with the MCP read tools you bytes, you don't know how to sign them, or the agent doesn't have your private key, so how to solve that. So we are working also on things like that. So yeah, it was it's kind of an interesting journey. And about myself, like I said, I'm the founder of BlockyDevs. I have a technical background, and yeah, I'm happy to work with Hedera for the past 5 years, I think now.
Excellent. Great to have you on board and to have you with us today. So I understand that you're going to give us a deep dive into some of the agentic tooling that is available, perhaps with focus on X402, what it is, how it works, and how it enables that agentic commerce. So I'll let you jump into the deep dive. Please take it away.
Thank you so much.
Why don't I start with a high level too of what is X402 and what is MPP? So essentially, these are two protocols that make it really easy for agents to do transactions and make it easy for any merchant, so anybody who wants to accept transactions, to be able to accept them from an AI agent. So instead of having that model where a human would have to sign up for a subscription and authenticate who they are, these two protocols make it really easy for for any merchant. So you could be an API provider, you could be, selling World Cup soccer balls, whatever it is, to accept an agentic payment in this new world where we don't have an AI agent that's a human that has a bank account that has these things. And crypto is really great for doing this. Now, X402 makes it really easy. Essentially, all a merchant has to do is connect to this middleman called an X402 facilitator, which BlockyDevs is hosting one for Hedera. And it sends out the request. It says, hey, here's what I need in order for this agent to access it. The facilitator does everything in the middle. It worries about settling everything on the blockchain. All you have to say is, hey, I accept HBAR, or I accept USDC on Hedera. The X402 facilitator takes care of that. It talks with the person or the agent that is trying to access it. And then it'll send a message back to the facility, or to the merchant, and says, hey, they paid. Here's the evidence. You should let them have access. MPP is sort of an extension, but it does it a little differently. There's some small details that are different. So MPP allows not only crypto, which is what X402 is focused on. Theoretically, X402 could accept other payments. But MPP is a way to enable merchants to be able to access funds as well. There isn't that nice handy dandy middleman though that is handling sort of the transaction in the middle. The nice thing about MPP is it is sent over HTTP headers. So you don't have to do anything special or out of there. It's a little bit more generic. It's easier to do than X402 is, but there is no middleman doing that for you. So an MPP server either can accept transactions from somebody who's already said, hey, I've bundled it up for you. Here's the proof and here's the payment. Or they have to do a little bit more work than they would in X402 and say, hey, this is what we want for the payment. And they have to be able to validate that the payment was done and that sort of thing. So they're both ways. There's nuanced differences. X402 is really easy, generally crypto. We have a facilitator. MPP is also an easy way to do it. But the payment method kind of has to handle a little bit of the back and forth and the dance of settlement and verification. Anything to add?
No, I wouldn't add anything to that. I think you've covered that pretty broadly. So the important thing is that MPP and X402 are both really simple protocols. Like you said, the problem 1 year ago when X402 was in the making was how can an agent pay for things without having access to a credit card and any money transfer tools. And the guys at Coinbase said that, yeah, that's exactly what blockchain is perfectly built for. And they decided that let's create a standard that will allow anyone to just accept payments in any form. X402 is mainly known for the crypto support, but it also supports fiat, credit card payments, or maybe differently, the protocol is designed in such a way that it can support this this payment rails as well. So basically speaking, you have three entities or actors in an X402 flow. You have the client, so an AI agent, or your Hashgraph wallet or Kabila wallet. You have the resource server, and you have a facilitator. Importantly, a resource server and facilitator can also be the same entity. But the premise or the idea behind X402 was how to make sure that crypto payments will be broadly accepted. And I think still a year ago, it was always a pain because every shop or every entity that wanted to accept crypto payment did everything from scratch. So if you were an e-commerce shop and you wanted to accept payments, you needed to check if the transaction goes through, you needed to index blocks, etc. It was a real pain. So the guys at Coinbase wanted to solve that. And that's why we have the facilitator, which basically abstracts all of the Web3 complexity away from a resource server. So how does the flow work in detail? So we have an agent, and let's assume I want to request the resource. I call the resource server, and the resource server responds with the status code 402 payment required plus terms. Terms are price, network, and the address to which the money should be transferred to. And the status code 402 is exactly also how the name X402 was created. So I might be wrong here, but I think in the late 90s or early 2000s, the status code 402 payment required was presented. But till date or before X402, nobody really used that. So that's why it was decided to use that status code. So the agent gets the 402 status code with all of the information. And now the agent can use any signing tools like on Hedera Hero CLI or a connection to Kabila, or he can have just a private key. He just needs to sign this transaction. And importantly, it depends on the network and specification. On Hedera, these transactions are ERC 3009, so with authorization. On Solana, it's a partially signed transaction. And on Hedera, it's also a native crypto transfer that's partially signed. So the agent signs just the transaction and again requests the resource, but now he also adds the payment, so the transaction bytes. And now you as a shop or as an e-commerce, you just ask the facilitator, please verify this transaction. Is the transaction correct? So you send the payment intent and the transaction and the signed transaction body to the facilitator, and it checks if the transaction is valid, if the transaction will come true, probably, and if everything is correct. And if yes, the facilitator returns valid, the e-commerce store does his job. So maybe he creates an order, he sends back, or he prepares something, etc. And then he just calls the facilitator to settle the transaction. So he again sends the transaction bytes to the facilitator. The facilitator broadcasts the transaction to the blockchain. So this is also kind of interesting because transactions on X402 are totally gasless. So the facilitator pays for them. And the blockchain confirms the transaction. The facilitator informs the resource server that everything went perfectly fine, and the resource server returns with a 200 status code and the resource plus the receipt to the agent. So the flow is really, really simple, and you will see in a moment that MPP is a pretty similar flow. There are very nuanced differences. But before we jump into it, like I said,
real quick, could you maybe zoom in a little bit to that flow so we can see it?
Sure, give me a second. Oh, wait. I've zoomed in.
That's a lot better. There we go.
Okay. So I think now my camera hides it. Is it okay now?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay. So before we go to MPP, a few maybe important resources. Everybody can run their own facilitator. That's completely permissionless. It's pretty simple. You can do it in 20 lines of code, and you can just go, and I will show the repo in a moment, to the official X402 repo and showcase or check out how a facilitator is run. But if you don't want to run a facilitator, you can use a publicly hosted facilitator. Like Lindsay, thank you for that, already mentioned. We, as BlockyDevs, we are hosting a facilitator, a testnet facilitator. This week, I've promised to Lindsay we'll have a mainnet version. So on blocky402.com, you can use that as your facilitator. And you then just don't need to run that. Yes.
And if you go to docs.hedera.com and look at the AI Studio docs, it gives a little bit more detail as well as how to use that.
I will show.
Yeah.
Yes, I will show that in a moment. Just the second important part is also you can go to x402.com, x402.org, and here you also see that Hedera is officially a supported network on the official X402 org facilitator. Also as testnet, I think the whole team did an amazing job to achieve that. So just want to highlight that here. And like Lindsay said,
took several months to get that accepted. So yeah.
Yeah, that was quite the journey. But also, like Lindsay said, if you go to the amazing new docs at docs.hedera.com, you go to the AI Studio part, then here you have the X402 section where you have all of the information, how to run it. Like if you want to sign something with X402, you just need to install X402 and create a Hedera signer, and that's all. And if you are a resource, and why X402 is so amazing, if you are a resource server, so you sell API calls, you sell t-shirts, you are an e-commerce store, whatever, whoever, you can just install the X402/Hedera package, and then you just register the exact endpoint and how many tokens you want to charge for the given resource. So it's really easy. So please check that out. It's a really cool protocol. And if you want to read more about how the Hedera X402 standard really work, you can go to the X402 Foundation repo, and then you go to specs, schemas, and exact, and here you have all of the supported networks or the supported schemas for all of the supported networks. And here you have exactly described how does the Hedera integration work. A few important information if you want to test it out based on some of the feedback. It's important to note that X402 Hedera supports for now only native crypto transfer transactions. So you cannot do a smart contract transaction with X402, or you can do with authorization type of transaction. It needs to be a native crypto transfer transaction. The good part is that it's really easy to extend and it's really easy to fork and play with it. So if you think that a different schema would be valuable, you can very easily design that, and I think you will get all of our support with Lindsay to convince the X402 Foundation to add the needed payment methods as well. But it's a journey. Nevertheless, let's go to
I was going to say, are we going to talk about our Agentic wallet project as well?
Yeah. We can. I'm not sure if we're allowed to, but if you say we can, then sure.
Why not? Do you have something to cover for MPP first?
Yes, I have a very fast. I will be pretty fast here. Like I said, MPP is also pretty similar. I think they could have some inspirations based on X402, but basically speaking, with MPP you also get resource. The MPP resource server returns you also 402 payment required. Like we said, it was a status code established before. And then in the headers, you get the payment ID, method, intent, amount, currency, and when it expires. And then on the client, you pick the payment method, and you also need to use the payment method specified credentials. So for example, for crypto, you will just sign a transaction, and then you also call again the resource endpoint with the payment intent or the payment proof. Here, the resource server verifies and settles the credentials, so it's a bit more work on the resource server than on X402. But like I said, on X402, you can, as a resource server, you can also be your own facilitator, so it will look pretty similar. And then you return, like in X402, the 200 status code. Importantly, that's a nuance. On MPP, you have two modes. You have push and pull. What does it mean? In one of these methods, and I always say them wrong, but in one of the methods, you as an agent can sign and settle the transaction and just add as the payment proof the transaction ID. So the resource server will just check that the transaction ID is valid and that was the payment with the right memo and stuff. And in the second method, you also can just send a partially signed transaction, which then will be passed to the or broadcast to the blockchain, which also can make the transaction gasless. Here is a really simplified table comparing the two protocols. So X402 was created by Coinbase. Now it's under the X402 Foundation, which, if I'm not mistaken, is under the Linux Foundation. MPP is under Tempos Labs plus Stripe. MPP uses HTTP auth headers, and X402 uses payment headers plus JSON terms. First class race on X402, or X402 is mainly known for crypto and stablecoins. MPP also, I think, puts a bit more effort into bank rails, cards, etc. Like I said, on MPP.
So yeah, we only have like a couple more minutes. I know we're going to open up to questions. But do you want to talk a little bit about this? So X402 and MPP make it really easy for people who are willing to accept payments to be able to accept payments, and then a developer can easily integrate with that to create an application for it. But what about when we want to have an AI agent that's able to make payments? Do you want to talk a little bit about what we're planning for that without revealing too much of the secret sauce? Yeah.
Okay, sure. So basically, X402 allows and MPP allows for an agent to pay for the transaction. But there is one problem. Both of them, or in the current specification, assume that an agent will sign a transaction and push it on chain, or that an user will sign the transaction for an agent and the agent will push it accordingly to the protocol. So this creates one important problem. In human in the loop scenario, you as a user, you can have an autonomous agent, but you still need to sign every transaction, and that's kind of bad if you want an agent to, I don't know, buy your groceries or buy your trip to to Berlin for VR developers. Or in the second scenario, if you don't want to be the human in the loop, you need to give your agent access to your private key, which is also bad because you have no safeguards in that scenario. Like your agent can pay wherever or transact to wherever entity. And that's exactly...
Yeah, I think I read an article about somebody who gave their OpenClaw, their credit card, and even though they gave them some instructions like only spend this much money, the OpenClaw is like, well, this is a great investment opportunity. I'm going to make you money, so let's go with it.
Yes, and that's a huge risk. And I also never let my agent go without any overview. So that's exactly what we plan to solve. I don't know, Lindsay, if you want to say something more or to add a bit more context.
So it's pretty easy. There's a lot of people out there coming up with ways to although they're not very smooth, I've been trying quite a few different agent wallets out to enable an agent to make payments, but they still sort of have that flow where you approve the transaction, it waits for a prompt for you, that sort of thing. What we want to do is create something where people we're going to start on the Hedera network, and then we can kind of work with our wallet so it works with MPP and X402 and whatever it is that other people want to accept. But make it possible for that AI agent to act autonomously. But we have the Hedera network, which has a really great way of creating sort of an audit trail. So with this Agentic wallet, the agent, you can set certain limits. You can say, hey, here's your allowance of $1,000. That's all you get, or 1,000 USDC, or 1,000 HBAR. We also are going to put other limits on there. Maybe we want to have a per transaction rule, or maybe we want to have a per day rule, a way that we can kind of check, control, and make sure that the keys never leave your keychain, ledger, or wherever it is you choose to custody them. So we're creating a way where we have a regulated AI agent that can make payments within your rules. And you're not just giving it a prompt to make those rules. It is a deterministic layer. And we're going to call that like the Agentic payments wallet. And that's something that's being cooked up right now. And there's lots of fun challenges as we're going through and trying to think about how to build this thing.
Lindsay, Peter, that sounds like a very exciting project. I mean, I saw comments coming in from the community where they wanted to hear more about it. And so glad that you were able to share a little bit about that with us. And I think it's going to be an exciting future where you can actually have that discrete layer and those guardrails for your agent to be able to participate in commerce, as opposed to just giving a prompt and then finding out that the agent overspent, and then they come back and say, oh, sorry, I know you told me, but I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And at that point, it's too late. So I do want to open up the floor for questions. We are receiving a few comments and questions here that we'll dive into in just a second. But I love how you opened the segment talking about crypto as internet native value. And so Peter, I think, made this point that is very well known in our industry, but agents cannot have a bank account, but they can certainly have a Hedera account with some HBAR for those value exchanges. And so that ability to exchange value with low friction, I think, is a key enabler for this participation in commerce that we're seeing for agents that has exploded in the past few years. So great to see all these technologies and great work that you and the team is doing. Peter, quick point. I do need that markdown file where you were comparing X402 with MPP so that we can make that available to the community. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interested folks that want to get their hands on that markdown file that you have there.
Sure.
So with that in mind, I do want to jump into the first question, which is, what has to be true for an agent to be a consumer, not just a helper, but an actual consumer, right? Because there are some possible challenges around regulations, around sandboxing and guardrails, perhaps onboarding merchants. And so if you could walk us through what needs to happen to make this a reality, I think that would be helpful.
So Lindsay, I will start, and I know that we can have a discussion even regarding the definition, because it really depends what you understand as a consumer. Should the agent be a consumer by itself? So an agent wants to buy something and just buys something, or does the agent always act for the given entity? But in both cases, definitely the agents need to have access to some funds in a safe, protected, and compliant way. And the agent needs to have some sort of an identity. Lindsay, I think you will expand on that, but I would say that these are the two fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, and my theory is there's going to be different levels of it. Maybe there'll be some marketplaces, trading marketplaces where agents can interact with one another and they have that authority to do so. When I think about an AI agent, though, being able to act on behalf perhaps of an organization, I think there's a lot of things that go into it. Yes, we need to have an identity for that AI agent. And I also think if you're an enterprise or you're a bigger company, you're going to need to be able to separate between like what an agent can do and what a human can do, right? An agent, you might be able to give it a limited amount of money to spend, but the human has to set the budget. An AI agent might have their own identity. So we can identify who it is that's making calls and say, hey, this agent got access to the API and this agent is the one that is doing this. But I also think if they're acting on behalf, if they're spending from a budget for a company, we're going to need a way to pass down the credentials of the company to the AI agent. And there's verifiable credentials. It's a W3C standard. It's a really great way to do that. I think third, we need to think about like the legal ramifications. Chargebacks are huge in agentic payment. I think an agent will be able to act within the permission of a user, but I think a human is going to need to look at terms and conditions and agree to legal terms. There's an interesting protocol coming up called Legal Context Protocol that's talking about this. So there's going to be this sort of division and permissioning, and we need to find the tools to say the human can do this part, and then they can delegate with control what an agent can do on their part, right? They can only make purchases of things that have the same terms and conditions that the human said is okay. They can make purchases, but only within the guardrails of what the human said that they can spend.
Lindsay, along those lines, I want to probe a little deeper, around this thought. And how should developers and business decision makers think about where to draw the line on what should never enable an agent to do or something that you should never hand an agent?
Go ahead. Go, Peter.
Sorry. So from my point of view, I think it's always a risk assessment. Okay, even if you have an employee or I have a company card, there's some risk assessment to me going just stupid and buy something bad for the company. But in Web2, in traditional circumstances, you as a company or you as an enterprise, you can always assess the risk involved in the giving permission. And I would say that it's not that you have a line that an agent will never be allowed to do that or that. I think that you just need to find a way, and we need to create standards, rules, and solutions so that you always can cap the risk that you allow the given agent to take. And I think that we are building towards that.
Yeah, and I think it depends on what agent you're building, right? If you're enabling an agent to go on a marketplace and do prediction markets, all right, whatever. You go ham, you do what you want. The person who created that agent and gave it power to spend has that in mind. But like if you're an enterprise, maybe you have a contract with only certain providers and vendors. So there also are going to be need to be tools for different levels of agent use, right? I let my personal agent on a prediction market, that's one thing. But if a company is trying to think about, hey, I want to make my supply chain and my logistics a lot easier, take a lot of humans out of the loop, we need to have these tools that they can set up like, okay, we can do business with these people that we've signed contracts with already.
Absolutely. Certainly not a simple, answer. There's many considerations. And I think the suggestions you shared are spot on. So at this time, I do want to welcome all of our speakers to the stage, including the folks from the first segment. And then I'll close with this last question. If you could point the community, the thousands of viewers that we have tuned in today, to a call to action, what would it be? And so I want to start with Lindsay and Peter. If you could give us that call to action for something that folks can go and do today.
Lindsay, please go ahead.
I think, we have that great sandbox in the developer portal. If you go into the agent lab, it makes it really easy for you to create an agent with the Hedera agent kit, download that agent and launch it and do things on the Hedera network. So my call to action would be try that out, or try building an AI agent that can work with the Hedera X402 specification.
Awesome. What about you, Seba and Luke?
Luke, you're muted.
There you go. Mine would be to test out Scaffold HBAR just with that simple command, npx create Scaffold HBAR at latest, and give it a go. And if you need help with anything, join our Discord. We're always there, always happy to help.
Excellent. All right, folks. There you have it. A great call today from CLI to AI. I do want to thank all of our speakers, the folks behind the scenes making this run very smoothly, and of course, all of our viewers and the community for tuning in today. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.